earlier of the contradictions found in religious texts, and I've read a few. Even read the Jefferson Bible. Have you guys read the Jefferson Bible?
I haven't read it.
Yeah, read it. It's actually a pretty. It's a short book. It's the Bible minus the story, and it's just the principles. It's pretty unique, and I'm glad I own it. But the contradictions really bothered me, and when I read The Age of Reason, I would flip through it, and I would come across paragraphs that seemed like incomplete thoughts. Like maybe just not incomplete, but not fully developed. Not in a bad way. I think Thomas Paine did a phenomenal job. I couldn't have done it. But I think his book would have been an encyclopedia if he were to go into every single detail. But there were a few things that he wrote where I would find myself going, oh, what's the rest of that? Thomas, where is it? And I would look at his other writings to see if he would write it there, and I never found it. And like I said, it's not that it was wrong. To me, it was just missing. And this started about 1998, 1999. I saw these missing pieces. And I started to try and fill in that gap. And it started off as just incoherent babble on paper, and even to the point where the first time I tried to do it, I couldn't reread what I was trying to, that doesn't make any sense. But I eventually wrote out what I thought was the gap, and it was about 9 pages. And over the years, I've whittled it down and refined different things as both my vocabulary increased and my understanding of Paine and kind of what he was talking about and deism as a whole grew. And I set out to complete the thought, and I did. And the problem is that I think it's an absolute wrecking ball. And I got to be honest with you, I'm entirely nervous about presenting the idea because I've been working on it so long, and I don't want to have an incomplete part for somebody else. Although I think it would be great if somebody else can come in and complete it, if there is a missing part. But even the name, the name itself took me forever to work on. And I think, I'm not entirely sure, that I'm settling on the Trinion Contradiction. And, like in India, Trinion stands for Trinity. But Trinion also means three-holed object. It could be like in piping or like a pair of jeans. You get the 3 holes in the object. Trinion was the other name, the Trinion Contradictions, which is a grouping of 3. But both really fit because it really ultimately is a holed object. There are 3 huge holes in in organized religion, in my opinion, and it is the Trinity. It is everything. There's a lot wrong with that. So I call it the Trinion Contradictions, and I gave it a cool name. I wanted to give it a cool name, even though the theorem is really small, because A, it makes it memorable, and B, it makes it easy to reference. Now the Trinion Contradiction, and you guys have those sheets, boils down into this equation. Okay, and this equation, you'll notice some different aspects of this. The middle symbol is one of the oldest symbols for God. You've got 3 different areas of the triangle. You've got prayer and intervention, free will, and destiny and plan. And where God intersects these ideas, you'll notice a does not equal sign. Now, people have speculated different ideas about this, but what we do know is that most organized religions teach prayer and intervention. They teach free will, and they teach God's will, God's plan. God is all-knowing. He knows what's going to happen. This is his plan. God has a plan. The problem is that when you really focus in on these ideas, they cannot coexist. Cannot. For instance, prayer ultimately is a solemn request. Help us, or help her, or help him. Do something for us, God. Bless this food. Do this. It's your will over God, essentially. Sure, there are some prayers, and I'm not going to belittle this, especially when we talk about deist prayers. There are prayers of thanks. Thank you. Will they ever be heard? Who knows? There are prayers of thanks, and I'm not belittling that. What I'm talking about is the solemn request, which is a doctrine of organized religion. You can ask God for help. The problem is that's not true. It's not true for two reasons: destiny and free will. If God has a plan, and this is the plan, he has no motivation to intervene because it is the plan. Sorry about your luck, but I have a plan, right? Oh, you have cancer. Why are you praying to me? I obviously planned this. Oh, you don't like homosexuals. Well, okay, it's obviously a part of my plan. Stop freaking out about it, right? So, if there is free will, intervention also negates that. Okay? You have the ability to make whatever choices you want. If you decided to murder her, that's your free will. God's probably not going to intervene because by doing so, he eliminates free will. You don't have the free will to do it because I'm going to stop you. And by the way, it also negates the plan. Because if you deviated from the plan enough that he felt necessary to intervene, well, his plan's not that strong. Because that was his plan. The idea of free will, prayer, and intervention cannot coexist because one literally negates the other. And this is big when you start putting it into scenario. And I'll read this for those who are watching this. The Trinion Contradictions demonstrate how a designed, detailed arrangement or individual power of acting without the constraint of necessity or fate. It also negates the idea of direct intervention or the need to request such intervention. In addition, the ability to act at one's own discretion would ultimately alter any established plan and void any such advanced arrangement or design due to what is known about cause and effect, butterfly effect. If you do something, it changes this, it changes that, which alters the plan. Any intervention would negate the assumed reasons behind free will. Aid would not and could not be rendered by way of prayer if a plan were in place. Such actions would negate free will and would alter any established plan. Now, this seems simple, but can it be refuted? Sure, with a deviation out of logic or reason, perhaps, but in a rational sense, no. Because the doctrine teaches the three. And if one is false and negates the other, which negates the other, I mean, this is a perpetual deal, then it changes everything, is what it does. Now, sure, and I addressed this in the Deist Reflection, that Thomas Paine called God his friend. But I contend, after reading Thomas Paine, that it's not a personal friend. It's not friends like us, where we can interact with one another. Logic is our friend. Reason is our friend. God is our friend in the same manner. We can love God like we love a sunset, or the ocean, or the animals, or what have you. But it doesn't necessarily mean that's God's going to love us back in that manner. Sure, you create or you grow a tree or you grow a nice lawn. You love your lawn. You feed your intestinal bacteria good food. You're going to love the way you feel. But it's different, if that makes sense. Thomas Paine also said that all the tales of miracles with which the Old and New Testament are filled are fit only for impostors to preach and fools to believe. And he's talking about, and this is one of those things where he's talking about, miracle, intervention. It doesn't occur. It can't. Because it eliminates and negates everything else. And these other ideas negate the principles that are being taught. And so when I look at why I'm a deist, because I believe in God, and I agree kind of what you're talking about it being a power, not a person. I'm not going to go up and shake the hand of God. I think it would probably hurt. I would be crushed. I would imagine that bacteria are to us as we are to God. And that's just my own interpretation of how small we are in the grand scheme of things. Maybe we're a cell in the grand scheme, a cell is to us as we are to God. I don't know. Maybe even something smaller. I don't know. It's hard to say. But this is why I am a deist. Because based on logic, cause and effect, Occam's razor, the Trinion Contradiction demonstrates why organized religion has failed humanity. And ultimately, because of these contradictions, these confusions occur, and people do horrible things to each other because of those misunderstandings or contortions of ideology. And it's my belief that if people could embrace something simple like this, we could eliminate, or at least reduce substantially, some of the things that allow us to do horrible things to each other.